everyone! So, a couple of days after I first created my Goodreads account, I was absolutely ecstatic to be contacted by someone called Connie. She's the assistant of the author called Forrest, and they were both interested in me to do a review for the book A Shade of Vampire. Now, on name only, I was a bit worried because I thought it was going to be like a 50 Shades trilogy kind of thing like that, because, you know, a 50 Shades of Vampire, 50 Shades of Grey, but I was pleasantly incorrect. So a bit about the book. It was the #1 bestseller in vampire romance, fantasy and the paranormal, and it's a novel that revolves around a girl called Sophia Claremont, I'm not too sure how to pronounce her last name, on which, turning 17, she finds herself kidnapped and taken to the Shade, which is a vampire island. Here she learns that being beautiful and attractive is dangerous, because everyone's going to want you, your blood's sweet, sort of thing like that. And out of many human girls, she and I think 4 others are handpicked to be in the Vampire Prince Derek Navark, I think that's how you pronounce it, harem. I don't know what a harem is, I know what it is obviously because I read the book, but I can't explain it, so you're going to have to look into that yourself, sorry about that. And basically, the only way for her to survive is to win over Derek's affections for her, which she's told by Derek's twin sister Vivian that that's pretty much impossible, so good luck, you're gonna die. But she is determined to, you know, survive and escape and all that jazz. Now here's my sort of reaction opinion. I'm going to be talking about the characters, character development and bad things, good things, stuff like that. So I won't be talking about all the characters, just the ones that I think are important, and they won't be like in complete detail, it's just, you know, sort of brief points and what I feel about them kind of thing. So Sophia, the leading character, I think that she should have been described, like the way she looks, a little bit more in the first opening chapters, because I got to the stage where I started inventing her in my mind, and then when I was looked at the chapter that described her a little bit about her auburn hair, it pretty much destroyed the character I had invented in my head. Not that auburn hair is not cool or anything, it's just that's not how she looked in my head, so that was a bit annoying to think, you should have really described her a bit better in the beginning, and then I wouldn't have gone through that tragedy. It sort of just dissolved what I was thinking. Ben, he's not really mentioned in the first part of the book. He's Sophia's best friend and sort of a love interest, although Ben doesn't feel that way about her. So she's kind of jealous about him with other girls and stuff like that, which I mean is fair enough. People fall in love with their best friends. Sometimes I just don't feel that way for you. That sounds like I've been through that. I'm just, yeah. Awkward. He seems a bit annoying to me by the way he's described by Sophia. I don't know why, just the way a character, I don't know, he just seemed annoying to me. Yeah, but she references him quite a lot through the story, and in the story he appears again, so he's in it, but he wasn't a major character to me, if that makes sense. Okay, so the main vampires are Lucas, Vivian and Derek. Lucas is Vivian and Derek's brother, the older brother, and he is really aggressive, but the way he's described just makes me think sexy. Nothing else, just sexy. Vivian is Derek's twin sister, and she has an affection, a love. You can see there's a love that she has for her brothers, really strong, which is something really weird when you automatically think of vampires. Excusing the obvious example, you don't think of affection, you think of solid, unemotional, lifeless kind of thing, but dead inside pretty much. But she has emotion, she's very protective of her brother's welfare. And then you have Derek. He's obviously the prince everyone loves and are very respectful towards, because he was kind of the founder of the Shade, so to speak. He appears very sad about his way of life, being a vampire and stuff. He didn't want this. He never wanted it. You can see that through the book, and you can also see how his affection grows for Sophia, other than just her being his slave. He grows to love her in a way. Okay, so character development. The characters of most importance, in my opinion, was developed very well, very, very well throughout the novel, especially with Sophia and Derek. With Sophia, you could see how she grew stronger and not began to think, okay, this is my life now, I'm a slave. She was still determined, but you could see the compassionate side of her and how she felt almost sorry, maybe pitying Derek, and how that turned into a kind of love, if that makes sense. Yeah, so she kind of pitied his situation of being turned and didn't want to be turned into a vampire, that kind of thing. And with Derek, you slowly saw what he thought about being a vampire, how he responds to it, how he kind of doesn't like it, sort of thing, and also how he feels about the Shade. I mean, having slaves, human slaves, constantly treating them like shit, and the captives, in particular, Sophia. So I only have a few bad things to say about this book, actually, which is really rare because books usually have quite a lot of flaws, but for me, this one only had 2 major bad things, in my opinion. It did in some parts feel as though it was going into an erotica, with the way things were said and described. It sounded very sexual in some parts, such as, I think Sophia said, Derek thought I was gasping for pleasure, and something like, what was it? What was he going to do with me tonight? And, I mean, taken out of context, that sounds much more worse than it really is. But there are some more obvious implications, like sexually, not bad, but you know, it's a bit, oh, see what you did there kind of thing. And in the story, you can see what I mean. Yeah, you can see what I mean. The second thing is the rushed romance. Now, I didn't really decide on this until near the end, because from the beginning it was obvious that Derek and Sophia were supposed to be some kind of love connection going on there. I mean, that's what Lucas, despite how he feels, captured her for. He captured her for Derek. However, in the last few chapters, it's like Bella Forrest, the author, forgot and was like, oh, shit, forgot to actually do something about this love thing. Let's add a few I love hymns and holding hands to make it more obvious. Which kind of killed it a bit, but I don't know, that's just how I saw it. It felt quite rushed. Yeah, it felt quite rushed to me in the end. Good things. It's not like the weenie teenage like novel fan fiction kind of stuff that we get quite a lot nowadays, which I must admit I am submissive to, but this novel is different. It's got a unique storyline, a human slave, a whole hidden community of vampires with an effective system including like what they called scouts to go out hunting, like grabbing essentials and stuff for the Shade. I've never read anything like this before, that involves fantasy and in particularly vampires, but I'm not saying nothing like this exists, it's just I've never read anything like that before, and it's quite interesting to me. Here are 5 reasons why I think the novel A Shade of Vampire is absolutely great. The first reason is that the chapters are really small, so it feels like a fast and quick read. It's extremely easy to read, you can get through it, but it leaves you wanting more. Second is the style of writing, especially when Sophia is narrating her chapters. I think it's very witty and funny, but it's done in a very subtle way, which makes it even more so, I think. And it's not like the usual, like I said, whiny teenage vampire fiction around these days. Number 3, the characters are developed really well. I grew to dislike some characters, I grew to adore others, which I think as a reader obviously you really need to have for it to be a decent book. I mean, it gains an attachment to the characters, am I right? I mean, and terrible in other ways when you get withdrawal symptoms, but a book needs you to have some kind of attachment, some kind of, connection with what's going on with the characters. 4, it's a simple one really, it's unique to me. I've never read anything like this, as I've said before. I think it's quite cool. The way it's all built up, the world, I can really imagine it, it's really cool. And 5, although I'm about to do it now, but as you can see, I avoided it pretty easily throughout the whole of this review. It's easily not comparable to Twilight, the obvious other vampire book series, and although I do love Twilight, I do love it, A Shade of Vampire, I must say, is much better written, and although it follows what can be called maybe a similar storyline in a way, I mean like a vampire falling in love with a human, a vampire conflicted with his emotions about being a vampire, I feel that this novel is more mature, and I don't know, it's just a completely different story entirely. Well, that's all I've got to say about it. If you've ever read this book, or if you're thinking of reading this book, I hope I've helped you. I hope maybe you agree, disagree. If you do, just tell me and tell me what you think. So yeah, this is A Shade of Vampire by Bella Forrest, and I hope you've enjoyed my review. Speak to you guys later, bye.